I apologize for not being there tonight. Possibly Linda can explain the circumstances that kept us from getting there. But I do want to thank everyone who was involved in making possible this reunion of the 1967 and 1970 state championship teams. I especially want to thank Linda Scupian and all those on the committee who have spent many hours and many months tirelessly working to make this night possible. It has been quite a few years since I walked into Bishop Guilfoyle High School and the basketball court. In my 9 years as the head basketball coach, we did quite well. My talented players averaged 20 wins a year. We won numerous diocesan championships, a trip to Hershey in the Final Four in 1974, and especially the 1970 state championship team. We must remember that behind every successful coach are talented players with the right attitude. It was a privilege to be the head basketball coach at this high school, for it was this school that gave me these hard-working, talented players with the right attitude. I considered it an honor to be their coach. It was also a great honor to work with the principals that year, Father Gerard Ream and Father Jim Scupian, who did everything in their power to support and make successful our basketball program. It was a joy to work with my assistants, Tom McGee and Tom Wiley, who not only had been successful players but were very, very knowledgeable in the game. They could not have been more cooperative and hardworking and willing to spend the long hours I asked for at rock bottom pay. Salary was never an issue. Coaching basketball, teaching them the game, and how to live life was their only concern. I had a great time working with our athletic directors, Father Boslett, and especially our illustrious athletic director, John Rowley. During my years and Coach Gaffey's years, John worked behind the scenes, doing more for BG athletics and players than anyone I know. You talk about a tireless worker. John was the leader of the pack. I do not believe that John ever got the credit he deserved. Who is it that didn't enjoy his colorful statements? Who is it among us that doesn't remember Sister Felicita and her enthusiasm and organizing the students and buses to all the away games? And who can forget the sound of the pep band and how proud our parents, brothers and sisters were of what we were accomplishing? To this day, I remember exactly where my parents, sister, and her family sat at all the home games. And I bet you can remember where your family sat also. I want to thank all of those I mentioned, and I know I missed some deserving of many thanks. Most important, it was an honor and joy and privilege to be the coach of the 1970 state championship team. They are the ones who made it happen. 40 years is a long time, but tonight we honor and celebrate two teams that are the last boys high school basketball teams in Blair County to win a state championship. No other high school boys basketball teams have won a state championship in this county since 1967 and 1970 teams. And you won it because you were a team. You have something to be proud of, guys. I have always had a special place in my heart for all of you on that 1970 team. You were the first group of players I coached at Bishop Guilfoyle, and you brought us the ultimate prize, the state championship. The year before, which was my first year at Bishop Guilfoyle, 7 of you were juniors. In the fall of that year, we had a meeting where I mapped out my program for you and gave you a book called The Heart of a Champion. I was greatly encouraged by the way you took to the program I outlined and your enthusiasm for that book. The key to the heart of a champion is attitude, and I noticed early that you had the attitude to be successful. Later that year, when you upset both Carroll and McCourt for the diocesan championship, I saw great things for the year ahead. We never practiced less than 3 hours, and I never heard a gripe from you. Of course I knew you griped a little among yourselves. That was only natural. And I imagine I was called a few selective names, but I never knew it. The one thing I did know was that you had the heart of a champion. The next year, we continued our 3-hour practice sessions where I hounded your butts every minute of those 3 hours. Do you remember your tongue sticking to your dry mouths after our defensive drills? There was a purpose in all of it. But I believe if I would do some of those things today, I'd probably be jailed. It was a different era. I jumped up and down, I pounded the table, I got in your face, you never complained. I am a calm, gentle, and loving person, and I truly loved every player I ever coached. But when competition time comes, I turn into another person. It's kind of like the Hulk. Do you remember the Hulk on TV? The Hulk breaking out from one person to another. As you well know, I was not always very calm and gentle on the basketball court. My purpose was to push you far beyond that you ever thought you were capable of doing. Calmness on the court came as a result of organization, discipline, and repetition in our 3-hour practice sessions, and your ability to adjust and execute, which you did well. You were the best, which is why you brought back to Bishop Guilfoyle and the city of Altoona the highest honor. The substitutes allowed me to push them every bit as hard as I pushed those that got at the game playing time. Because of their attitude, they were able to push those that played. And I can tell you that was a big factor in us becoming a state championship team. The subs deserve as much credit as the guys who played. Without their attitude and effort, it would not have happened. It was truly a total team victory. There were many special victories that year, defeating McCourt for the diocesan championship at the Jaffa Mosque, then defeating Erie Cathedral Prep to send us into the championship game. They were exciting times. I remember walking into the Harrisburg Arena. There was a state championship game going on for one of the lower classes. Remember, let's not forget, and we were Class A, and in 1970, that was the highest classification possible. The classes then were A, B, and C. Today that has changed quite a bit. But when they talk about Class A, us being the Class A champs, I wish they would put it in brackets and say that was the highest class possible at that time. But here we were, getting off the bus, walking into the Harrisburg Arena. And I remember saying to you, walk in, take a look, get your oohs and ahs over with, and then go right down to the locker room and stay there. I didn't want you sitting there and getting overcome by the tense and exciting atmosphere. The game started against Allentown Catholic. It went back and forth as expected. We were down by 8 points, 64-56, early in the fourth quarter. But as usual, you rallied to tie the score at 74. Thanks to Bob Landolfi grabbing the ball after a Tomasetti block, shot, and a jump ball. And then the game was tied with 11 seconds to go. So the game tied with 11 seconds to go, we called timeout. My brilliant instructions for you were, okay guys, you're smarter than I am. I got you this far. You figure it out now. Well, it wasn't quite that way, but almost. There was no special instruction other than we have been in this situation before, and our offense is geared to cope with it, and you have coped with it before. We started at the far end of the court. We wanted to get the ball into the hands of our best ball handler, Billy Gibbons, and then he was to get it to our best shooters. Our best shooter on the wing was Tim Lambor. Our best shooter on the baseline was Denny Tomasetti. As Gibbons got it to Lambor, Lambor saw Denny on the baseline. If he wasn't open, his job was to get to Bob Landolfi, who was rolling to the low post. And then if someone shot and missed, we had our best rebounder, Steve Skelly, on the offside, who was among the best at picking up the garbage and putting it back in the can. We had everyone in position and had done this drill many times throughout the year. There was nothing new. There was no trick play. Just do the fundamentals as we have done all year. That's what the 3-hour daily practice sessions were all about. So just stay calm and execute. So with 11 seconds to go, Billy Gibbons dribbled through a full court press at midcourt, past the Lambor on the wing, who saw Tomasetti on the baseline for the shot he had made many times before. The rest was history. a 15-foot jumper, gave us a 76-74 win and the state title. And that was the last boys basketball state champion for Blair County, 40 years ago. I do want to mention our two super subs that year who played as much as anybody else, Danny McDonald in the inside, Dave Benton in the outside. Remember, Dave, we used to call you Kamikaze Dave because you would go through a wall for us. The rest of the subs, who mostly played on the JV team, but who were responsible for making us being the state champions we were, Jerry Milliron, John Bob Kilcoyne, Tom Ferrer, Charlie Tate, Steve McManus, and Joe Bernhardt. Our devoted managers and statisticians who worked hard as anybody else, Andy Miller, Dave Mason, Ted Beam. Guys, it was an honor to be your coach.